Hello, everyone. I think we're just about to start. My name is John Mountjoy. I'm the Community Manager over at Visualforce. Thank you very much for coming along to this session. It's the first session in the beginner developer track. And Bulun Chinakaya here is the PM, the guy responsible for building sites, which is this wonderful technology he's about to tell you about. So without any further ado, Bulun.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the session. It's great. Every year it's getting bigger and better. We have a full house. Today we're going to talk about Force.com sites. And I have 3 objectives to achieve at the end of this session. First, at the end of the session, I hope you guys are going to learn what Force.com sites is. And you're going to know when you should consider using Force.com sites, use cases, best practices. And you're going to know what the required skills to start using Force.com sites. And hopefully you're going to decide to start using and you will know how to get started. I'm sure by now you guys seen this many times and know by heart, but I have to show the safe harbor statement, and it's also available on our website as well. I thought maybe to set the context, I can show a quick video in 3 minutes that will explain what Force.com sites is all about. So let's start with the video.
Everyone loves great websites, and every company wants them. Unfortunately, building and running them is still too complicated and expensive for most of us. It's actually amazing that anything gets built this way. Here's the good news. Salesforce.com is changing that. You can now build and run any website natively on our cloud platform, Force.com. The same platform that runs our sales and service apps, plus thousands of custom apps. With Force.com, you can build and roll out sites 5 times faster at about half the cost of traditional software platforms. Let's take a look at what people have already done. Here's the volunteering site that Starbucks built. These pages are served up directly from Force.com. They built and delivered this in only 3 weeks. It was highlighted on Oprah and got over 1 million page views in the first few days. Dell built and delivered this site, where you can submit and vote on ideas to help social causes. Looks like they spent months on it, right? Try 4 weeks from idea to deployment. Here's another volunteer site. This one's an online volunteer application from the Red Cross. You fill in these fields and it goes straight into the Force.com database. New Jersey Transit built this group ticket sales site in just a few days. 3 months later, 1/3 of their group trips are booked online. Promethean built this site with this great drag-and-drop shopping cart. And here's a really cool e-commerce site for video games, built by EDL Consulting in only a week. So the question is, what site will you build? Our point-and-click tools will step you through the process of setting up a database and building out workflow rules, email alerts, and approvals. You code your pages using our UI framework and standard web technologies like HTML, Flash, JavaScript, and cascading style sheets. You configure your site with your domain name, or you can use one of ours. You can even enable RSS feeds like ThomasNet did on their recruiting site. Now you can see their job listings on other sites or in your RSS reader. All of these sites run on our proven cloud infrastructure, which makes them more secure, more reliable, and more elastic than just about anything out there. When you run your site on Force.com, you don't have to worry about hardware and software stack, backups, performance tuning, security, or upgrades. Just build your site and let us take care of the rest. Here's the best part. You can build and run your first site for free. If you don't have a Force.com account, you can sign up for Force.com Free Edition and deploy your first site on us. To get more details, hurry over to our site at force.com/sites.
Well, thank you, everyone. That's the end of the presentation now. But this video pretty much summarizes our presentation. Now we're going to drill down to details and see how we can build sites together, and we're going to take a look at an example real estate site. And at the end of the session, you can go App Exchange and download that example real estate site and install in your developer edition or freeforce.com edition and play around with it. And that includes a video how to set it up as well. So video also talked about this cloud architecture. So I want to emphasize quickly our cloud platform, cloud architecture. I'm missing the chatter because this presentation is prepared before the announcement. But at the bottom, our cloud infrastructure, which is available for you. It's transparent. You don't have to worry about it. We have 3 data centers, real-time application, 5.9 availability, trust website. You can go check the availability real time. And the most important thing is the multi-tenant kernel at the bottom, which allows the multi-tenancy. Everybody's using the single line of code. Because of that, we were able to release 28 major releases in 10 years and do the upgrades without impacting your business. The second part, which is what I'm going to focus on, is the Force.com platform. So when you build your applications on this infrastructure, you need a lot of things available for you as a tool. You need a database. You need to create your tables, your fields, your relationships, your validation rules. You need workflows to work around with it, right? And that's not enough. You need to put your own logic. It could be a simple logic such like a formula, validation rule, or calculation field. You can do through the UI. Or you might need some complex rules. When an event happens, you have to call a third-party APIs or do some other actions. For that, we have the Apex programming language, which you can run your code on our cloud. So you built your database, and the API is out of the box available for you. Every day, we do more than 150 million API calls. And this is a public API version control available for all your objects you create in the system. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Perfect timing. And other things you expect from the platform when you build an application is, obviously, you want the reporting to be available for you. So you don't have to worry about building the reports. It's very important. You build an application, you need to see the ROI results, right? And security is important. So with the Force.com platform, you don't have to worry about any of those because it comes with the platform. And for that reason, I put this slide as a bold statement. Building applications on Force.com is 5 times faster than any other alternative. The reason is that you're only focusing on building your application instead of buying servers, setting up them, security, creating sharing rules or reports and all this stuff. So all this time you'll be spending on is available for you to build your own application. And obviously, half of the cost as well. So let's take a look at back. 1 year ago this time, we announced Force.com sites at Dreamforce. It was the platform keynote announcement, and we announced developer preview, meaning that it was available for you guys in developer editions, so you can give us feedback, and we can improve the product before making it available. What happened since then? Around February timeframe, we opened up also the pilot program, so we worked with 85 customers in different regions, different use cases, large customers, nonprofit organizations, right? In June, summer release, we make it generally available. So right now, Force.com sites is available in Unlimited Edition, Enterprise Edition, and Free Force.com Edition. Obviously, during the last 1 year, it's still available in developer editions as well. And also, we bundled free monthly page views. Free Force.com Platform Edition gets 250,000 monthly page views free. Enterprise Edition gets 500,000. And Unlimited Edition gets 1 million page views free. And you can create up to 25 sites in these editions, right? And since then, we see huge adoption. Already 11,000 websites built. We made more than 204 million page views served through this infrastructure. So what are the use cases that we're seeing during this time? When you look at our platform, there's a Sales Cloud. You might be building applications related to your sales organization, e-commerce applications, marketing landing pages. There are Service Cloud applications such as public ideas pages. You're collaborating with your community, or total custom applications such as when you come to this conference, you actually use Force.com sites. When you go to conference registration page, that was a Force.com sites page. And when you register authenticated, that was the authentication integration between sites and the portal. When you do self-registration today at the kiosk machines, you use Force.com sites. So you can imagine different use cases. But a couple of use cases that I'm seeing is that companies are running their entire website. There are a couple of partners you might see at the demo ground. Their website is already running on either free edition or enterprise unlimited edition. And some companies are building intranet sites. Because when you have your public website, we allow you to restrict the access with certain IP ranges, which practically makes your site an intranet site. Other use cases are microsites, which is more popular. Not necessarily the entire website, but a small portion of the website, which requires dynamic interaction with your data, such as partner locator, store locator, or lead capture. Web to anything type of flows are getting created on Force.com sites and very popular. So we created a site, which is running on sites, to highlight some of these public websites that you guys are building. And that's available at developerforce.com/sites gallery. Why don't we take a look at a couple of them? There is currently about 46 sites highlighted here, and as you can see, it's like an iTunes commercial. There's an app for that. Do you want to donate a gift to third countries? They want to build their business. There's a site for that. World Gives. Want to buy dancing costumes? There's a site for that. Here is another example. Let's take a look at it. This is an insurance company. They created this directory to show their brokers. It's the broker directory. And here what you can do, it's not just a static website. You can search the broker that you want to work with, and it narrows down the results. And when you drill down to the broker, then you're seeing the microsite for that specific broker. Within the Salesforce.com, this broker is updating his profile information. Obviously, the company is controlling the branding and certain aspects of the site, but there are certain areas available to the broker to update. You can learn about the broker. You can schedule a meeting with the broker. So these are the microsites that I'm seeing very popular because of dynamic nature, because out-of-the-box integration with your Salesforce.com and CRM and your Force.com platform. So at this point, what we're going to do is the introduction part is done. Now we're going to learn how we can get started, and we're going to create our first site, right? In the next section, we're going to drill down to an example real estate site, and we're going to get to know a little bit more about the functionality and what can be done. And this example is also available for you at App Exchange as a free lab application you can download. So I have a couple of slides about, how you create your first site. But since this is a developer session, I took my jacket off. Let's go create one site together instead of going through the slides. So first of all, where do you go to get a Salesforce.com org? Obviously, developer.force.com, 200,000 developer strong community site is your single source of truth. You come to developer.force.com. By the way, developer.force.com is my first customer. We announced last year in October sites. They were started using sites April, way before it was even beta. So you come here, there are two options for you. The first one, obviously, you can register for Developer Edition org, right? Developer Edition only gives you 5 users. You have all the functionalities that Force.com CRM provides you. the idea is you can experiment with this org and build your applications. The other option that we announced recently in June is the free platform edition. Free platform edition is not necessarily for you to experiment, but also for commercial use you can use for your own company, and it includes 100 platform users. And you can create one site in this org, and you get 250,000 free monthly page views. So you need to choose which one you want. Once you choose your, register your edition, in this case, I'll be showing the developer edition. You log in, and you see a developer edition like this, and there's an introduction page showing you where you can get more information. How do you know you have Force.com sites available for you, right? So here's the path. You go to Setup, right? It's under Application Setup, Develop. You're going to see a couple of things here, and one of them is Sites. And what are the other things you're seeing here? Apex classes, Apex triggers, and APIs, and all this development related stuff, right? So when you create your Force.com sites, what you're doing essentially is you're using web technologies. You can create pages, right? And in that pages, if you want to interact with Salesforce in a dynamic fashion, read data, store data, do actions, then you start using your own logic, which we call Apex programming language. And if you ever code Java and if you know PL/SQL, the learning curve for you is about a couple of days to get to know and write the Apex code. And the Visualforce is nothing but using HTML code and the standard web technologies with additional tags that you can interact with your Apex code, right? When you querying something, okay, here's the field I'm going to display here, kind of thing. So for Force.com sites, what you need to do is the first thing is, as I said, register your domain name with us. It's a one-time setup that identifies your site uniquely, right? So in this case, let's register our site. You can check availability. Well, it's not available. Somebody registered already. What's going on? Okay. There's the terms of use, how you need to use this site and what are the available page views, and you need to accept these terms of use. And the link is always available on the site setup page. You need to accept these terms of use in order to register your Force.com domain name. It tells you that once you register your domain name, you won't be able to update. But that doesn't mean if your company changes branding and those kind of stuff, you can always work with our support to change this domain name. So that was one of the questions asked in community. How can we change our domain name? So the first step is done. I will never see that step again. So this is my Force.com domain name. Couple of things. In Developer Edition, the domain name is a little bit different than your production or free Force.com edition. In Developer Edition, we append some suffix to your registered domain name like -developer edition, and you're going to see the instance name. But on your production orgs, it's going to be your company name or whatever name you registered, .force.com. There is no suffix. So what I can do at this point, I can create up to 25 sites, right? In Developer Editions, again, this site is limited to one site. But in productions, you can create up to 25. So what is the reason you want to create different sites? There is no limitations how many pages you can associate with your site. Well, here are the reasons, because each site can have its own unique domain name, its own branding, own error pages, own authentication process. So if you need to have these kind of requirements for different sites, then you need to start creating different sites. But if you want to expose different pages, then you don't need to create different sites, right? Let's create our first site. Site label is the translatable label, whatever you want to give. as a name. Site name is the API name when you programmatically access your site, what the name is. Site contact is the person who's responsible about managing this site. By default, the person who created the site, but you can pick any other user in your org. And this user might get communication from Salesforce.com, or sometimes you send error emails, then this person will get the information. So, out of the box, we create some sample pages just to demonstrate and to provide a default functionality. You have two home pages, when your site is active and when your site is inactive. And you can put your site active or inactive mode with one click. So those are the pages. Additionally, of course, you can associate your robots.txt, so you can tell the search engines, you cannot crawl my site, or you can crawl the site, but only these pages you can crawl, or all the pages. Your favorite icon, little icon thingy shows in the browser URL bar. And in the last release, we made even easier to integrate with Google Analytics, or in that matter, any other analytics application. We introduced a new field, analytics tracking code. So you can copy paste your tracking code here, and we have out-of-the-box component you can include in your site template that uses that code dynamically based on what site it is. So you can leverage the same pages in different sites, but always gets the right tracking code from the site definition. Obviously, we're going to get drilled down in the site template. Basically, the site template is the page at the site level, defines the layout and the look and feel. So the same page in different sites, because of the template, can look differently, behave differently. So at this point, what happened is that we created our site, and we're seeing our HTTP URL to access our site, HTTPS URL to access our site. And on production orgs, you're going to see one more field called custom web URL. In developer edition, it's not available, but on production, what you can do is that you can go to domain name register your own domain name, or create a subdomain, and you can create an alias, CNAME, from your custom domain name to your force.com domain name. And then when that alias is in place, you can come back and populate your custom domain name field on your site, specific site. And we will preserve that domain name when you're accessing your site. So in that way, you can preserve your custom domain name when you're accessing your site. A couple of other things here. So you have your site. What's happening behind the scenes? If you use Salesforce.com before, every user accessing the system has a profile. Profile tells the system what that user can see, cannot see, what fields they can see, right? And there are sharing rules, what records they can access. Same thing for your website. For usability purposes, we hide this functionality. Behind the scenes, your site has a special user, guest user. So when you look at your organization definition, you might see guest user licenses. What are these? So I'm having a guest this weekend. Can they use this? No, it's for your website. And that has a profile as well. Each site has its own user and own profile, so that you can set the access control for your site differently per site, right? For that reason, I said pages are not the reason, but different access controls is a reason to create a new site. And what pages are going to be available? I mean, you're using Visualforce technology to create pages in your own Salesforce.com organization. Maybe you included a Visualforce snippet in your opportunities page. You don't want that to be public, right? So here's the place to tell the site which pages are publicly available through the site. Click Edit. You start picking and choosing what pages are going to be publicly available through this site. And same thing for certain standard pages. We allow them to be available publicly as well. So how about error conditions? When somebody's trying to access a page, the page is valid, but the site doesn't have access to, so they cannot see that page. What happens is that the error page, authorization required 401, is thrown out. Out of the box, we associate Force.com branded Visualforce sample pages to these error conditions. you have the full control to customize those error pages. So when those kind of error condition happens on your site, your custom page will be displayed to your visitors on your website. A couple of other things on this page. You see the usage history, how much bandwidth this site is using in the last 24 hours, how much request time, CPU time kind of thing this site is using. And we also have AppExchange package, reporting package you can download to your org. You see all your sites and the dashboards and the graphic, what kind of resources and all this stuff. Again, that's not a clickstream analysis application. It's more around the usage. And I'll talk about the usage when we get into best practices, why it's important for you to take a look at the usage. And the site history is basically who did what when on your site. User A, enabled RSS feed. User B changed this page to this page. Let's quickly drill down to public access settings. As I mentioned, public access setting is nothing but a scaled down version of a profile, user profile, associated with your site, right? The only way you can access this profile is to go onto the site. If you have access to the site, then you can drill down to this profile. There are so many other ways in the setup. You can manipulate profiles, but not your site profile because of security reasons. You might have 10 administrators in your org, right? They might introduce a new custom object, new field. You don't want those people introducing those objects and fields suddenly showing up in your website. You want the full control, central control, and that is through the accessing the site and drilling down to site public access control. Basically, what you can do here is the same things. What page layouts are available, even at the field level, if you have access to the object, which fields you can see, which tabs you can see, record types, and the objects. Here's the beauty. Out of the box, nothing is enabled. So by default, your site is not exposing any data. You have to specifically come to your site public access settings and enable things consciously. Because you know your flow. This is your website. You know what is publicly available, what is not. And you need to turn them on. And quickly, like any other profile, here is the place. You can set an IP range for your site. And only those IP addresses can access your site. And when you turn on the IP address range functionality, people who wants to access your site has to use your secure URL, HTTPS. If they're out of IP range, or if they're trying to use HTTP, they're going to get authorization required page. Okay. We talked about all of those. We talked about how you can create your first site. Okay, the next thing is, let's take a look at an example site. So this is a fictitious cloud realty, real estate website, right? And we're going to take a look at what the functionality is, what's happening under the hood to build this site. And this site is going to be, as I said, it's available on AppExchange for you guys to download, and the link in this presentation. And here is my demo org, which is a production org. It's not a developer edition. It's an enterprise edition org. So that's why I was able to create more than one site here, up to 25. And some of them, quickly just to show the functionality, is available with the custom domain name. For example, this choice coffee recruiting site is nothing but a site can run on a kiosk machine in the coffee shops, and people can apply for a job. As you can see, I'm using here a custom domain name to mask sitesdemoforce.com/recruiting. Instead, I'm using www.choicecoffeerecruiting.com. When I click on it, as you can see, it's a multi-step wizard, and I'm using force.com sites. Nothing looks like Salesforce. Even the domain name doesn't look like Salesforce. And the look and feel is the look and feel that I want. Let's go back to our site. Today, what we're going to focus on is this site, realty site. So this is a site that has certain site functionalities. If you look at, I'm going to navigate from page to page, you're going to see there is a template going on because every page has the same components. Take a look at it. I mean, the menu, the logo, and the banner, and we have the footer at the bottom, and we have the latest news widget. And when I go from page to page, this part is not changing. What is changing is the body portion of the page. So we're going to see the techniques, how you can create a template, use components on the page, and dynamically change parts of the page. Let's take a look at About Us. Our agents. Right? I created myself as an agent, and Ryan sells a lot. Our listings. See, you're seeing the listings. You can filter based on neighborhood and different parameters, which adds the dynamic nature because this data is directly coming from your force.com org. You can see the news, and there's an RSS feed available as well. Let's take a look at it quickly. You can subscribe to. Okay, so let's take a look at inside the org, how this website is getting the data. So we created a custom application, meaning that we created our own objects to represent listings and the users, realtors, for this real estate website and those kind of stuff. And if you go through that, and by the way, when you install this package, you're going to see a tab called Sample Setup. And you're even going to see a little video how to set this up in your demo org or developer org. So if you look at it, we have a tab that you list all the listings, right? And the listing is nothing but a simple object, listing number, address, here's the description, and the images are used as an attachment, right? And if you look at it, there are news items, right? And news items are basically a number of things, and there's a flag says, is this an active item or not active item? So if you go back to our website, let's take a look at the news items. These are the two news items which are active, right? If I go make another one active, I'm expecting to see this news item to show on my website as well. Let's refresh the page. News item showed. Similarly, let's drill down to some of the agents. Here's the agent. In this case, instead of contact, we use the users because these are the real users, agents using this organization. So let me drill down to agent details. Right? I'm going to update myself as an agent. It says realtor, my phone number. If I drill down, and let's say update, let's promote me. And let's refresh our page. Wow, suddenly I got a pay raise. So, a couple of things on this. Let's drill down back to our site detail, realty site detail. As you can see, we have the favorite icon, we have the robots page, enabling crawling, and the pages are enabled, and some of those pages are coming from the App Exchange package, as you can see. We didn't customize the error pages, and here's our usage, and we even have our syndication feeds enabled for this. Let's go back to the presentation quickly. And let's talk about this components. As I mentioned, the real estate website has the similar parts, right? And there's a template at the site level. What that template allows you to do is that you can use the same template And each page, you can say, I am this portion of this template. Template can have header, footer, left side, right side, you decide, different parts of the page. And the one page says, okay, use the site template, and by the way, I am the body part of that page. When it renders, it uses the look and feel and the layout from the template at the site level, and it renders itself in that portion. How about components? So you can create a reusable components. Instead of having multiple copies, you can use the same code multiple times in different pages by referencing that component. So let's take a look at that. We're going back to our template. And before we do that, let's go quickly take a look at our site one more time. See, there's a header part, there's a footer part, and there's a news area. Okay. Site template. It's called Big Cloud template. Let's take a look at it. How does it look like? Okay. Basically, this page is saying, at the top, there is a header section, right? The layout is defining, the template is defining the layout. Insert, name, header. And here's the Big Cloud header component. So on every page or wherever I want, if I reference this Big Cloud header, it renders the same thing. It's one code. I don't have to keep repeating the same code in different pages. That reduces the maintenance problem. Then I have a 2-column grid. Right? On the left side, I have the main content, which is blank because each page is going to populate itself in the main content area. And the other side, on the left, I have the news widget. On every page, using this template, news widget is going to display it at the same place. And at the bottom, I have a footer section, and I'm calling the component called footer. So with that, the main part is dynamically getting populated on every page. However, the header and the news and the footer is part of the template and referencing component. How about RSS feeds? Oh, one more important thing before RSS feeds. So we all talk about this unauthenticated access, right? You're creating a new user, a profile, opening up the window in your org, for people publicly access your site. But like Dreamforce, you come to the public site, and at some point, I need to authenticate my use case. I need to authenticate and know who you are so I can serve personalized information or capture personalized information and run the CRM for that specific user. So at that point, you need the authentication. And part of our platform, we have a product called Portal, right? Portal basically similar to sites, but it requires authenticated access. Like you log into salesforce.com, the users of the portal has to log into Portal to access the functionality designed for them. So what sites does actually merges the two worlds, unauthenticated and authenticated world. So you can start as a public and associate your site with one of the portals you have. You can customize your registration login flow and continue within the portal, and it'll be all transparent to your end users. It'll be the same experience. Let's see how it works for our realty website. So you might have noticed at the top there's a login link. When I click on this, and the login and registration functionality becomes available, what's going to happen is that when I register, I'm going to have a username, password, and I'm going to be created as a portal user in your force.com org. And then you can track every action I do based on that user. You can associate a specific profile access control for that user so you can serve more personalized information. So let's log in. When I log in, you might notice a couple of things are changed. suddenly I got this watch list functionality, which was not available for me as an unauthenticated user. It only makes sense if I know who you are to keep your watch list. If you're anonymous, I don't know what to do with the watch list. And login link became logout link. So system knows I'm authenticated. So let's drill down to one of the listings. On the listing details, also, you're going to see two additional functionality. One is inquire about this listing, which is going to create a lead in the system. And the other one is watch this listing. Basically, what it's going to do is, when I go back to my watch list, it's like a shopping basket. It adds for me to my watch list. And the nice thing is, when you go back to your org, if somebody creates a watch list, you can see that watch list in your system, who created. So that's kind of interest people, what people are doing on your website. So how do we associate sites with portals? Very easy. Let's go back to our site detail, if we can find it. There you go, site. Big Cloud Realty. You might notice there's one button here called Login Settings. It's very easy. Just click the Login Settings. Right? At the beginning, obviously, it's going to say Login is not enabled as default. And all you have to do is edit, pick one of the portals you configured for people to access this information as authenticated user. Right? And then you can even customize the change password page. Because change password is not a public page. It shows up in portal after you authenticate people. Either you can force them to change password after their first login, or the password can expire, then they need to change their password. And you can brand that page as well. So with sites and portals together, it completes the picture. You can have rendered URL to access your portal. You can brand all the registration, login, change password, reset password pages, and you can put a public interface before the portal as well. Let's take a look at the, quickly, RSS feeds. So when do you want to use RSS feeds? You might be publishing news updates about your website, and you might make it available for people to grab that RSS feeds and put it in their iGoogle or RSS reader. So for that, we wanted to make it easier for you to create RSS feed, public RSS feeds on your site. So what you need to do is, on your site definition, you need to just enable, check the RSS feed enabled checkbox, and then suddenly a new related list shows up on your site detail page. And basically what you're doing in that related list is that you can create a number of different RSS feeds. Basically, it's a query against your force.com database. And then you're mapping the query fields against your atom.xml format. And taking the URL and put it on your website, and voila, suddenly you have RSS feeds. You don't have to create a page, and it's already cached for you. Let's take a look at it. So we have two RSS feeds here. And if you look at it, basically, it's a query selecting certain items, in this case from a custom object, and sorting them. And the mapping section is taking the fields and mapping based on the atom.xml format. And you can cache this RSS feed n number of seconds if you want. So each time it won't query your system, it serves from the cache. And you can activate, deactivate the RSS feed as well. Let's talk about best practices. So you're no longer creating these applications for 10, 20, 100 users in your own organization. Your application is becoming publicly available on the internet for everybody to access, unless if you're IP restricting it, right? So we thought about it, and we wanted to provide a way for you to serve your customers, your visitors, in a better way. So we said we need to integrate with a content delivery network. Content delivery networks are companies that caches your content in different servers all around the world, and also they do traffic shaping. So for that, we use the market leader, Akamai. So when you create your site, no cost to you, out of the box, transparently, it's enabled with this integration. What happens is that you have the full control also which pages are going to be cached for how long. If you choose not to cache, it is your full control. And if you use HTTPS, you bypass all this caching as well. And even if you don't cache, still you take the advantage of traffic shaping, because this integration knows what is the fastest route to come to Salesforce data centers to get this information. What happens is that when the end user asks for the content, the first time, it's going to find the fastest route to get the content from Salesforce.com, and the consequent requests are going to serve from the edge of the network, from the closest location to your customer's location. And again, this is, you don't have to do anything for this. It's out of the box, transparently available for you. All you have to do is decide if you want to cache your page. And for that, here's the syntax. At your page tag, you need to say cache true, expires, and number of seconds. So a couple of things that you need to be careful when you're building your site. So we talked about the multi-tenancy. We talked about 11,000 websites. So, and you're running your website directly from your own organization, and other people are sharing the same instance as well. So for that reason, like any other parts of the application, we're monitoring the performance, and we're putting some governor limits on the system. So your site has two governor limits. In 24-hour rolling time period, it can only serve 40 gigabyte bandwidth data, in and out bytes. And also, you can only consume 60 hours worth, since it's a multi-tenant system. In 24 hours, you can serve more than 24 hours. 60 hours worth of processing time, meaning that we calculate sum up how long does it take for us to generate the pages you're asking on our servers, and we add them up. And it reaches 60 hours. At that point, site shows you exceeded the limit. For that reason, we also enabled this Akamai integration so that you can cache your pages. Anything served from cache is not going to count against your governor limits. That's the one thing to consider when you're building your site. Obviously, you need to keep in mind, if you use an Apex code, the limits coming from Apex code as well. How many queries you can perform in one query, how many records you can return in one query. And, you know, limit the query results and fine-tune your queries. Make sure you create indexes, because suddenly, we talked about the Starbucks example, 1 million people might be coming to your website, depending on what you're announcing, how popular it is, what season it is, right? And the last thing is that test for different browsers. Still, 9% of the internet using IE6. So either you put a disclaimer, or you test your Visualforce pages, your HTML code in different browsers to make sure you're serving your end users properly. So just to sum it up, with Force.com sites, it's very easy for you to create your public website and run on your from your Force.com organization. So for that, you don't need to buy any servers, any hardware, any additional software. And the Visualforce technology automatically understands your data structure, your validation rules. There is no integration required. And we include a lot of free page views for you to take advantage of that. So here is the link for the demo application, Realty website. And the PowerPoint is going to be available on the website as well. When you download in your org, you're going to get the Setup tab, explains with the video how you can configure this, right? And We have about 10 minutes, and I would like to see if you guys have any questions or not. Okay. One question over there. Yeah. The question is, we talked about the free platform, Force.com edition comes with 100 platform users on one website. The question is there any customer portal licenses coming with that? The answer is, unfortunately, right now there is no portal license coming with that edition, but it's available as an add-on purchase. So when we talk about the portal, also important to mention there are different level of licenses for portal functionality. If you want to interact with your partners, there's a partner portal license which gives you Sales Cloud functionality, leads, opportunities, quoting with your partners. If you need to do Service Cloud kind of functionality, service requests, knowledge base, ideas, then there's a customer portal license. And right now there is in pilot, we're coming up with a new license is called authenticated website user, which is price point will be very lower than customer portal, but it is going to be only accessing the custom objects, meaning that if you're creating a recruiting application or an e-commerce application, you don't need the CRM functionality, but you just need to securely authenticate people on your website. That would be the license to go with, because that's based on the feedback we got from you guys. Any other question? Yes? Correct. Where do you find the details of this? Okay. What are the Apex Governor limitations and where you can find that? The single source of truth place is developer.force.com. On the left side, you're going to see different interest areas. Apex has a special section, Visualforce has a special section, and website has a special section as well. And you can find a lot of valuable articles on developerforce.com. Yes, sir. I couldn't hear, I'm sorry. Can you embed a block? You can embed a block. You can, in fact, better than that, you can build a block. Sure. I mean, if you want to frame your blog, or if your blog provides APIs, you can do either embed the blog UI in your site, or you can use the Apex Web Services functionality or API calls to bring that data and render it natively on your website as well. Question? So the sandbox editions, obviously, if you're talking about production. In developer edition, we let you guys build code on developer edition. If we're talking about the production, unlimited enterprise, and even freeforce.com, you cannot really code on those. You have to use sandbox or a developer edition, build your code, and deploy to your production after your code successfully passes certain criteria. Free edition comes with the sandbox. Yeah. Yes, sir. So data storage, every edition comes with a certain amount of data storage. And this data storage is shared across the users like a pool. And you can purchase additional storage as well. So the site doesn't come with additional storage, it just uses your org storage limits. I guess the question is there any ROI calculator or any tools that helps me to decide how much my site is going to cost based on if I get this much traffic and I need this many people to register? Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that kind of calculator online tool, but your account executive will be happy to work with you on that. If you know your traffic, every edition, I must say, generously getting enough page views. You may or may not need additional page views. You need to decide how many people are going to authenticate and what is your use case and pick the right portal license for that. Those are the things you need to consider. In the back, I'm sorry. I'll get back to you. Yeah. Uh-huh. I'm not sure I understand the question, but you can create, the question is, can user access the multiple sites? Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay, so you can do two things. You can create a specific site tailored for mobile devices, or you can detect the browser version and based on that dynamically generate the page for mobile device or for browser. You don't have to have two sites, but all of these are publicly available sites unless if you IP restrict them. You have a question, sir? Mm-hmm. At this point, yes, all the web crawlers count as page views. We don't have the functionality to detect the web crawler and deduct from your page views. One of the reasons for that is we included very high number of free page views as well. Question in the back? Yes. Yeah, so in your use case, what you're saying is that volunteers needs to log in and search who is calling, if it is in the system or not. Clearly, your use case requires authentication. You don't want this to be performed publicly. So what you can leverage sites on that is to provide a seamless integration with portal to get those volunteers to log in, or maybe provide some public website for people to call which number. But you definitely need portal functionality, authenticated use case for this. Okay, there's a question. Like any other Dreamforce presentation, if it is not available now, it will be available at the same time with all the other presentations, and it should be in your registration portal after you log in. Okay. So two questions. One is pretty much getting our roadmap. Are there any out-of-the-box templates? So the answer for that is currently there is no out-of-the-box application that we provide comes with a couple of sample pages, right? For IT developers and developers to build such applications. But on our roadmap, we're working on two things. The first thing we're working is to provide declarative UI, drag and drop kind of UI for non-technical users to generate those templates and the UI. And the second part, which is a little bit longer term, is to provide web content management functionality, which is like create a content type, create the content, approve it, version it, translate it, and publish it with a certain schedule. We're working on those two. And the second question was, what was your second question? Web to lead. So it's great because the example now included in the developer book, we just added a cookbook recipe, exactly how to create a web to lead very easily. It's one page and one controller. Yes, sir. Correct. You could have pagination as well, but we only had like 3 listings, so we didn't bother. Sure, definitely. You can either include, so instead of showing everything in the custom object, can I selectively show what is available? You can do two things. One, you can use sharing rules. You can specifically share which records needs to be available on your website. Or you can put that logic in your controller, your query, and based on the criteria, you can expose fields. Yes, sir. Okay. So what are the skills required to start using Force.com sites? Obviously, HTML. You're building your pages, right? And probably CSS. And you need to know the basics about Visualforce. And if you need to start getting the data from Salesforce, either query or store, Visualforce and Apex basic knowledge is required to start using sites. And I really encourage you guys to attend the last session today. It's about Visualforce, how to create applications. It is not only available for you to use on your website, but also in your org. You can get tremendous advantage of Visualforce and Apex knowledge. Yes, sir. So you want certain people to authenticate and update their own profile, right? In that case, the most secure way is the portal. The other way is you can target them with a specific URLs, generated, encoded URLs, and they can follow that URL, only access that information like that. They can do that. But if it is a contact object, there are certain access limitations what public site can do. Obviously, public site only has create and read access on standard objects. So if it is a standard object, they need to log in and update. I'm getting the sign over there saying the next session is going to start and a lot of people waiting out there. So I'll be around. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.